Hey everybody, I'm going to come in and wake up the fish room this morning. So normally when I come in to wake up the fish room, the room is dark and we start by lighting up the tanks. But now that I've built this sort of island garden here in the middle, I'm going to need to do things a little differently. For one, I've run my tanks on a 12-hour on and a 12-hour off cycle typically. I usually come in here about 10 o'clock in the morning, which is what it is now. And that's when I get my tanks all lit up and turned on for the day, and then about 10 o'clock at night, I usually come around and shut them all down. But now that I have all of these plants in here that require far more than 12 hours a day of lighting, I'm not going to be able to do it that way. The reason most of us limit the lighting in our fish tanks is just for that reason, is to limit the amount of growth of the vegetation, algae in particular. We leave our lights on too long, it doesn't bother the fish. In fact, the fish, being tropical in most cases, come from parts of the world where 18 hours of sunlight a day is normal. So we're not bothering the fish by leaving the lights on all day long, but we are making our tanks grow a lot of algae. I don't really have that issue. I'm not really sure why I've gotten into the habit of just keeping the lights on from 10 till 10. It's just sort of this habit I've worked myself into. But what I've been doing now that I've got this set up is I'm coming in when I get up in the morning, usually around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning, something like that. And then I come down here and I turn this on. And then that lights the room up enough that, the fish tanks are getting some light. Once we move the camera away from that really, really bright light source, you can see that the room is much more brightly lit than first appears. My native tank and the tanks in the back of the room here tend to get a little less light because of all of the hostas creating so much shade. And of course all of my tanks light up like mirrors with this central light, and the rest of the room being dark. So that's not going to bother the fish, and it's not going to put enough light in the tanks to really cause any additional algal growth or anything like that, but it will give me good plant growth here in my sort of garden area. It'll be interesting to see what kind of algal growth I get in my, I guess I have to call this a native tank. It's all native caught fish. It has two of the little sunfish I caught, little tiny things. There's one right up front right now. Little baby sunfish. And then I don't know what those little minnows are. So I've got two of those little sunfish and then a bunch of little minnows swimming around. Some of those little minnows might actually be little baby bass for all I know. I haven't looked that closely at them to try to identify them yet. But this tank might develop a fair amount of algae with this really intense grow light on it for, 15 hours a day. Because at the other end of the day, when I come down and turn the fish tank lights off, that's my phone ringing, not yours. When I turn the fish tank lights off, I leave this light on, and then I come down at the end of the day when I'm ready for bed, 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I will go ahead and turn this light off at the end of the day. So that's how it works now. I don't know if you just saw my cat Bootsy disappear into the shadows over there. The cats really like it in here with all of the vegetation and everything now. I do still have to worry about my catnip plant here. This is where it stays most of the day. I will sometimes put it up here to get it a little closer to the light. And then that lets me take the lid off of my red-clawed crab tank here, because that's what this is. And if I don't leave this lid on here, unfortunately the crabs will get out. So it's no big deal. I can just pull that off if I want to look in there and enjoy it or shoot video of it. In the meantime, better safe than sorry. I will say on a final note before we actually get around to turning all the fish tank lights on. Actually, let's go ahead and do that right now. We start over here with my brackish tank. There's a little switch down there that the little LED panel I built is plugged into. It's my 29 miscellaneous. Now my T-bar tank, my gourami tank, and my native tank all come on with a switch under there. I'm down to one fixture on my black ghost knife fish tank. I'm still not entirely sure what I want to do with this. That is a twin T5 high output fixture. It produces a really nice light. There's my cat Bootsy. I don't know what it is. My cats love these algae wafers. If I don't keep them closed up, I've come down here on several times and seen my cats with their heads stuck in that bag trying to eat my algae wafers. So I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but they really seem to like them. Interesting. So all of the tanks on this side of the room are plugged into this plug strip back here. So one switch lights all of them up. Excuse me. So there you go. That's the whole fish room lit up. I have had people ask me already if this is going to be enough light to keep all of these plants alive, and I suspect it is. Time will tell. I do have other options. I do have more than one of these panels. I'm using the other one in the kitchen right now, so that will probably become available at some point when we're no longer using anything in the kitchen. And then, of course, by next winter, when we start bringing plants in to overwinter, we normally do that in the kitchen just because we've also got the light coming in through the door, to sort of help us out. But I think maybe this area might be where I do a lot of overwintering next winter, but I don't want to get ahead of myself and start, speculating on what that might look like then, because we've just gotten to look at what it looks like now. At any rate, with the light, as far as the light is concerned, I've also got another little unit that I've built already. This is the driver, this is the heat sink, and the little fan to keep the unit cool, and that is a little garbage chip in there. That's another one of those cobs or chip on board lights, and it came free with the driver when I bought the driver, so it's a little, it's basically a throwaway chip, but I built it just to see, if I could build it, and now that I've built it, I can simply replace that chip with a higher quality chip, and I can add some supplemental lighting, back here shining down this way, or I can basically position that little additional light wherever I want to give me either just for artistic sense, just to change the way the light and the shadow falls. I can change the color temperature by putting different color temperature chips on there. Right now we've got a 3000K color temperature on there. I know that sounds like a very low color temperature to be growing plants under, but this chip actually has a lot of blue light spectrum in it, so it does really well as a grow light. I was really reluctant to try it when I first saw it, but the price was right, and I always figured I could return it if it didn't do what it claimed, and it does really well as, a vegetative grow light, even with a 3000K color temperature. So far I've been really happy with it, and I really do suspect that it's going to be enough to sustain all of the plants we've got over here. Nothing over here is really a light needy plant. Now some of them do well under high light, like these daylilies, for example. They would do fantastic in full sun all day long, but they also grow in the woods under the trees. So the amount of light they're getting here is plenty. The creeping Jenny is another one. It does better under full sun, but it also grows in shady, wooded areas, so not necessary to have a ton of sun on it. And finally, I will say, look at this catnip. Now, I'll grant you, when we were doing this in the kitchen, the catnip was considerably closer. It was maybe, right here underneath the panel. It was 1.5 feet or 2 feet away from it, as opposed to maybe 3 feet away from it now. But look at what it's done. I mean, it's a fantastically healthy, vigorously growing, dark green catnip. The one I've got out in my yard, in the sunniest spot in my yard, is pale green and leggy. So I really think we're going to have plenty of light on this. It's just going to be fun to watch it grow and develop, and I'm doing this as much just to see if I can do it as I am for the sake of doing it. It was fun to do. I love the creative process. I love putting stuff like this together far more than I like maintaining it and doing the maintenance and everything on it. If I could build something like this and then tear it down after a week and then build something like this again, but do it differently, I probably would. And in fact, when I first started keeping fish, I did a lot of stuff like that. Slapping something like this together is, this isn't the first time I've built something like this. I've actually put stuff together a lot more elaborate than this. But this is actually put together a lot more thoughtfully. Instead of putting it together in a way that would be fun, I put this together in a way that would hopefully be sustainable. I've got the high quality lighting on it, and as cluttered and messy and as bushy and overgrown as all of this looks, it's really not a lot of stuff to take care of. It's not going to be a lot of grooming. It's not going to be a lot of watering. My chief concern at this point is going to be how much moisture evaporates off of all of those leaves and everything, and whether or not I'm going to have to start running a dehumidifier or something down here because of the moisture in the basement. But other than that, I really think we're going to be able to have a sustainable little garden area down here thanks to those Cree LEDs in that unit right there. So again, we'll talk more about them in the future. This was really supposed to be just a waking the fish room up video, but I am still so in love with this that I can't stop standing here looking at it and enjoying it. So I certainly hope you do too. Make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss any of the videos I got coming up. We're probably going to be talking about this and lights and plants and stuff like that for a little while. That's kind of the thing I've been working on and thinking about a lot lately. So this afternoon it's supposed to be rainy. Maybe we'll get in here and we'll do some water changes and we'll do some regular fish tank maintenance stuff while we enjoy the garden area here. So thanks again for watching, and as I said, make sure you're subscribed, that way you won't miss anything I got coming up. Thanks again for watching this one. Don't forget, this one is my garden tank. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you real soon on the next one.